I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. And, you know, Court TV, we cover big trials all around the country. And sometimes the fact patterns might be similar to another case. You know, oh, yeah, this one reminds me of that other one. Or, oh, yeah, remember that other case when this happened? Well, Karen Reed up in Massachusetts is unlike any case we've ever covered before. This is a woman who was in a relationship. Her boyfriend was a Boston police officer. They go bar hopping one night, and it's a snowy night, cold night in Massachusetts. The following morning, he's found dead on the front yard of some friends, and she's been accused of murdering him. Okay, and all right, well, I didn't do it. Well, she's not just saying she didn't do it. What she's saying is, I didn't do it. It was the people in the house that did it, and they're police officers, and they covered the whole thing up. So she's not only saying I didn't do it, she's saying we know who did it, and they covered it up, and they're framing me. And now what's happened in this community of Canton, Massachusetts, Norfolk County, is that the community's divided, and there's this huge outpouring of support for this accused murderer, Karen Reed. It's unreal. It's unlike any case that is on our docket here on Court TV, and unlike any case I've seen in decades. Julie Janae has a closer look tonight.
Who killed John O'Keefe, the 46-year-old Boston police officer who died from blunt force trauma and hypothermia? Prosecutors claim his girlfriend, Karen Reed, is the one who murdered him. January 28, 2022, in Canton, Massachusetts, prosecutors say Reed and O'Keefe went out drinking. Later, they pulled up to the home of Brian Albert, a police officer they were acquainted with who had invited them over. Prosecutors say the couple argued, and when O'Keefe got out, Reed backed her car into him and allegedly left him unconscious to die out in the snow in front of Albert's home. Police say they discovered pieces of broken taillight at the scene. And according to the state, Reed allegedly told a first responder, quote, "I hit him." Reed is charged with second-degree murder, vehicular manslaughter while impaired, and leaving the scene of an accident. She denies the allegations and sat down with ABC News' Nightline.
I did not kill John O'Keefe. I've never harmed a hair on John O'Keefe's head. I would call him the patron saint of Canton. He was just very selfless, frugal, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that didn't care for John.
Reed says they pulled up to Albert's home and she asked O'Keefe to check and see if they were really invited. She claims she watched him go to the door, but he never came back to the car and he didn't answer the phone. She said she went home and fell asleep, and she claims she never heard from him again. In the early morning, she says she went out to search for him and found O'Keefe at 6 a.m. lying in the snow in front of the home where she'd left him.
He had this set of wounds on his right arm. And the Commonwealth looks at these wounds and says, there's nothing to see here. This is just a road rash.
Reed's defense attorneys have an alternate theory. They say O'Keefe was beaten up in the basement of Albert's home, attacked by Albert's dog, and then dumped outside.
Why would Brian Albert rip out the floor of his basement months after John O'Keefe was killed?
So is this a cover-up, and if so, who's leading the cover-up?
Well, certainly the Massachusetts State Police is involved. There are people that were in that house that are involved.
Reed is represented by two high-profile attorneys. Their evidence includes a Google search done on the phone of Albert's sister-in-law, a search for how long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. But the state says the defense's analysis of that cell phone is flawed, and in a rare public statement of its kind, the district attorney reprimanded the defense for spreading what they say are lies about innocent people.
Conspiracy theories are not evidence. The idea that multiple police department, EMTs, fire personnel, the medical examiner, and prosecuting agencies are joined in or taken in by a vast conspiracy should be seen for what it is. Completely contrary to the evidence and a desperate attempt to reassign guilt.
The Karen Reed case has spilled outside the courtroom and into the streets of Canton. Residents have leveled allegations of corruption in their law enforcement agencies and protested in support of Reed. Despite public opinion, it's up to a jury to decide if this case is one of a police conspiracy or a lover's quarrel turned deadly.
You don't see members of the public coming out before the trial even starts and protesting in favor of and supporting an accused cop killer. That just doesn't happen. I've never seen it before. But it's real and it's legit, these folks. It's not like they're making up what they believe here. And you know how I know that? It's like the middle of the winter. It's a pre-trial hearing. It's not even the trial. And again today, they're showing up. Unbelievable. We have some more images here, courtesy of our, thanks to Nick Rocco for helping us out here. But there they are. It doesn't matter how cold it is. They've been there time after time, hearing after hearing, supporting an accused cop killer, right? Her boyfriend was a Boston police officer. But again, they believe, the protesters, as is Karen Reed and her attorneys, that she's being set up here by the police. So they're back in court today. Trial is coming up March 12th. You see it right down there. But it looks like the one thing both sides may agree on is that they want this thing delayed. Take a listen.
Judge, this is Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, 22117. Can I have counsel identify themselves, starting with the Commonwealth?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lally.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good afternoon, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. David Giannetti for Karen Reed, who is present with me at counsel table. My co-counsel are participating by Zoom.
All right. Good afternoon, Ms. Giannetti. Good afternoon, Ms. Reed. I don't see co-counsel, but I can't see anybody other than the panel.
Judge. And if we needed to speak to them, I've already spoken to Mr. Giannetti. I can.
All right. So good afternoon, Mr. Jackson. Good afternoon, Ms. Little. All right. So I'm in receipt of the joint motion to continue the motion hearing date, cancel the final pretrial conference date, and convert the trial date to a motion hearing date. So I just want to start off with, I think it's premature to continue the trial date today. So I'm not going to do that. Let's talk about, though, what might throw off our timeline. So I want to go through each one of these things. The first one, I know that you're concerned about getting information from the U.S. Attorney's Office. I do appreciate that you put right in your motion that no timeline was explicitly given for the completion of the process and therefore the production of information. But the U.S. Attorney was cognizant of the trial date scheduled for the case at bar and desired to provide enough lead time for the parties to assimilate the new information, leading counsel to believe that the information would be forthcoming in early February. What do you want to say about that, Mr. Yannetti? What do we have? What's new?
So we actually have an update, Your Honor. At 8:28 p.m. last night, the parties received an email from the U.S. Attorney's Office stating the following regarding the procedure going forward. First, this is a quote. First, as soon as we hear back from the DA's office regarding the latest edits to the protective order, we will file our motion in federal court. We will then be in a position to make our disclosures immediately upon, number one, the federal judge's endorsement of the protective order, and number two, execution by the parties of the acknowledgement form on the protective order. Second, we expect that this could happen as soon as tomorrow. Now, this is an email that we're receiving last night.
Right, you said that.
But he said in parentheses, again, assuming a quick turnaround of the protective order and acknowledgement forms on your part, speaking to the parties. In any event, and barring something unforeseen, we would characterize the disclosures as happening within a matter of days.
Okay, great. Mr. Lally, I know you're on trial, but have you been able to hold up your end of this yet, or when will you be able to?
I anticipate being able to respond in regard to there was some language as far as the protective order that the Commonwealth was concerned about, given its obligations for public records requests, as well as some issues in regard to when the finality of the proceedings may be defined. But I think those are easily resolvable issues. So I anticipate we should be able to hopefully do that this afternoon.
Okay. All right, let's have it done no later than tomorrow afternoon.
Sure.
Okay. Couple takeaways here. Number one, it really looks like this judge wants to march forward with the March 12th trial date, right? Even though both sides are saying, hey, can we delay this, judge? No, that's premature. And what they're all talking about is an investigation of the investigators in this case. Like I said, the defense is saying this was a police cover-up and frame job, right? The U.S. attorney, the feds have come in and are investigating the investigators, and the folks leading that investigation say they're going to reveal some of the results of their investigation to the prosecutor and the defense attorney in Karen Reed's case. Are you following that? So the people who investigated Karen Reed and charged her are being investigated by the feds. And the results of the federal investigation will be released to the DA and to the defense. Wow. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Phoenix, Arizona, criminal defense attorney, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, hates her more than you, Kirk Nurmi. In Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy, and also with us in Los Angeles, California, deputy public defender for LA County, Philip Dubé is with us. Great to see everyone tonight. Kirk, I've never seen this before. It's a federal investigation of the state investigators who investigated and ended up charging Karen Reed with murder. The results of their investigation of the investigators will be revealed to the prosecution and Karen Reed and her defense team. What are your thoughts about that?
What a wild story. And, I know the judge was hesitant at this point to back up the trial date, but I'm wondering what kind of can of worms this is going to open, because how rare is it to have a case, as you mentioned, where the investigators are being investigated? That cannot be good for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and their attorney. So we could possibly see motions to disqualify those attorneys. We could see motions related to taking depositions of other people that were involved in this investigation. What initiated this investigation? I mean, these documents presumably are going to open more questions. They will provide answers. This and the possibility of DNA coming up means I'm thinking we're probably going to have to wait till March 12th before this trial hits the airwaves of Court TV.
Eklund Mercy, that is a gift, isn't that a gift? I think regardless of what the results of this investigation are, at this point, this is an incredible gift to Karen Reed, that the people who are charging her or investigated her are being investigated by the feds.
Yeah, I don't think it's a gift. I think that with regards to the feds, they had trustworthy facts that a crime had been committed, and the fact that they're investigating means that they had enough to get to that point. We had enough for probable cause, and that really just throws a ding in the prosecution's investigation, because all the evidence is by these investigators that apparently, if there's enough probable cause for an investigation, means that there's enough. So there's issues with Brady material, meaning that, hey, did the prosecution or did the investigator keep some information that would be helpful to Ms. Reed? There's a lot, and the mere fact that the feds are still investigating, meaning that Karen Reed has a good shot of this not even going to trial. I think it may be dispositive just based on the interactions in court, that the information may be dispositive.
All right, Philip Dubé, you're in L.A., and that's where Karen Reed's, one of her attorneys is. Alan Jackson is a former prosecutor there. I'm sure you've come across him many times inside the courthouse. What's your take here on this defense as a whole? Because, I'm a big grain of salt guy. I'm a former prosecutor. There are some strange occurrences here. Do you think this is legit stuff by the defense, or do you think it's part of what I call defense theatrics? where you kind of...
Knowing Alan Jackson, I have no doubt that he has credible evidence to back up his defense. There is no question. And there are some hard answers that the prosecution is going to have to answer if this, in fact, goes to trial. So, for example, that Google search of, how long does it take for a body to freeze? Why on earth that was Googled before the body was even found, or whatever that timeline was, that is a very significant, almost exonerating detail that will absolutely exonerate Karen Reed if that in fact comes into evidence. I cannot think of any reasonable explanation for that Google search predating in time and manner the discovery of Officer O'Keefe's body out in the snow. It doesn't make any sense. There has to be some type of digital technological explanation for it. Otherwise, it's going to look like the people in the house had their way with him, slid the body outside and left him there, and then tried to pin it on somebody who may have come into contact with him at the time that he was dropped off at the party or sometime after his body was dragged outside. So I actually think it's pretty brilliant. Now, as for the federal thing, and I'll be brief, Karen Reed needs to be careful what she wishes for, because the federal investigation could also clear local police. Just because they're investigating doesn't mean that more charges will be brought or that they're going to come in and try to put that entire local police department into a receivership and assume jurisdiction over them. It could come out of the wash that they did nothing wrong and they can go forward with their prosecution. And then what? Now the prosecution can call the feds to the stand and double down on their assertions of the strength of the evidence. So they need to be careful too.
So, Kirk, if the opposite happens, though, Kirk, and there is something that the feds find that went wrong with this investigation, as witness after witness takes the stand for the prosecution against Karen Reed, you can use all that material to attack their credibility, attack their investigation if, and again, as Philip Dubé says, this is a big if they do find something wrong with this investigation.
Yeah, I would disagree with Philip. I don't think it can be used to bolster the state's case. They're not after the fact witnesses or to vouch for the credibility for the state. I think this can only help Karen Reed. And ultimately, you're right, Vinnie, all these things and what initiated the investigation, all the inconsistencies they found, what was the probable cause, as Eklund said, they're going to be able to go after all of that and all that new information and follow up. That's why I say I don't know that we're headed for a March 12th trial date, because there's going to be so much information that the Reed team can use. And if there's credibility to their assertions that Philip was talking about regarding to the Google search, what have you, this is nothing but damaging not only to the prosecution, but to every witness they're going to bring forward, because they're going to be impeached with all this information.
And obviously, we will stay on top of every development in this story as it marches on up in Massachusetts. All right, Kirk Nermy, Eklund Mercy, Philip Dubé with us the whole hour. Up next. She's accused of murdering the man who trafficked her. Chrystul Kizer was out on bond, but is back in custody, facing new charges.
My only thing is I want my child home, and it's messed up how everything happened.
Kizer says she was defending herself when she shot and killed 34-year-old Randall Voller and set his house on fire in June of 2018. Kizer was just 17 years old at the time. Randy Voller was charged with child sex abuse and was out on bail at the time of his death. Kizer's mother says the prosecutor knew about Voller's alleged activities, but did nothing to stop him.
He had evidence. The fact that it took for her to do something because she got tired of it. And he trying to like sweep the whole problem under the rug, but it's so much more bigger than just her.
But District Attorney Michael Gravely says Kizer killed Voller because she wanted to steal his car and then bragged about the killing on social media.
Where she is essentially bragging on a Facebook Live sort of telecast. She has a gun in her hand. She's waving that gun in her hand, and she is discussing how if somebody makes her mad, she'll shoot them like she shot someone previously, and there are people there trying to quiet her down.
Kizer's case has gained national attention, with celebrities like Alyssa Milano and Patricia Arquette calling for her release. Kizer faces life in prison if she's convicted of murder and arson.
My only thing is I want my child home, and it's messed up how everything happened.
Chrystul Kizer was a victim of sex trafficking, and the victim, the man she's accused of murdering, was the man who trafficked her. And the jury's going to hear about that, and she's going to be able to use that as part of her defense in the murder trial. Now, as you saw, there was a lot of support for Chrystul Kizer when she was locked up after the killing. She got out on bond. But you see this picture right here? This is a very recent photo. She was arrested in Louisiana after being on the run for 2 weeks after a domestic incident while she was out on bond. So now she's locked up. She's got a trial coming up scheduled on June 10th. But how is this going to impact everything now? She was out on bond and was, you know, everyone was looking at her as the victim, and the jury's going to know that she's a victim of sex trafficking. I haven't seen that Facebook video that the prosecutors talked about. We'll see it at the trial. But let's bring back in our think tank, Kirk Nermy, Eklund Mercy, and Philip Dubé. Eklund, what are your thoughts about this latest development? I know we've talked about this case in the past. I think a lot of people agree that it's going to be a pretty strong defense, a sympathetic defendant, but does this change the equation at all? Now that she's got new charges involving some domestic incident, she flees and runs for 2 weeks, gets arrested down in Louisiana.
I don't think so. I think if you know that anybody, any victim of like kidnapping or sex trafficking, when you get them out, it's you're dealing with the effects of that. You're not getting the same person that went in, and the adjustment to regular home life is a daunting one. So the fact that she was bonded out, yes, we want her home, but if it's not therapeutically driven, if she's not getting help, if she's not getting, if she's not getting counseling to deal with the PTSD of what happened, if she's not getting, the medication or the counseling to make sure that she's prepared mentally, emotionally, physically for trial, that's a thing, because she's still a defendant who has to defend herself from killing her suspected rapist, not only her rapist, but her trafficker. So the emotional turmoil that she has to deal with, and we're putting this on a child. So it makes sense that she would have issues at home, especially if they are not prepared to deal with the levels of, trauma that she's dealt with.
Philip Dubé, and Eklund's right. I mean, when all this happened, she was a child. When she was trafficked, she was very young. And we're looking at these images when she was first arrested. You can see she still looks young there. But this is now years ago. She's getting older and older. And, you get a little bit older, you start to grow a little bit. Do you think that will impact the way the jury sees her as they look at her as what she looks like now versus that younger child who was trafficked?
I don't think so, Vinny. I don't see Grandma Moses in her face. I still see a baby. I feel so sorry. This is a child to me, really. And I think a jury is going to empathize. And I think they can look back in time and recognize that she was still a kid back then. She's just a few years older. I mean, we're carrying on as if it's been a generation. I think at the end of the day, what she's going to have to show the jury is that she was defending herself against a forcible rape, either a rape by him or being forced to be raped by others for a pittance. That is an atrocious felony. It's a violent offense against which you can use deadly force. And assuming she can prove that underlying need to use self-defense, I think it's a great defense for her. And if she has proof that she was in fact trafficked, that she was a sex worker, and she was under his thumb, and there was the threat of violence if she didn't perform to his satisfaction or in the volume that he expected, I don't think a jury's going to find him sympathetic. I think the least talked about person in the room is going to be that victim. Nobody will shed a tear for him.
Kirk Nermy, I've reserved my thoughts about this because the biggest piece of evidence I believe that prosecutors are relying upon in all of this is that Facebook video. I haven't seen it. I don't know what she says. I don't know how she appears. Do you think, we know what we know, do you think this video could be incriminating enough to discount the sex trafficking and have a jury believe that this was in fact a murder?
I don't think so at all. I'm going to go so far. This man is not a victim. The jury is not going to consider him a victim. They're going to consider him a pedophile and a sex trafficker. And with the Wisconsin Supreme Court has already said she is entitled to use that defense related to her actions that day. And this video, you know, Vinnie, excuse me, this video it's so repugnant to me that the prosecutor is using this video is so disconnected to the trauma that someone suffers when they go through sex trafficking and child abuse to say, well, she did this video and she was waving a gun around and she was bragging. She was a child experiencing trauma and trying to, in one sense of the word, protect herself from going back to environments like that. And to use that as an instrument of prosecution to me is just repugnant to every sense of justice and decency, and I hope this case finds a way to get thrown out before it ever reaches a jury.
Well, June 10th is the trial date. My guess is we will go forward on June 10th, and it looks like Chrystul Kizer will likely be locked up until June 10th. She has to be extradited first from Louisiana, but of course we'll stay on top of every development. Up next. Was it murder or self-defense? OnlyFans millionaire model Courtney Clenny getting ready for her murder trial, and we have a preview.
Yes, and I am so sorry. So shut up and let me slide you.
I want a restraining order against Christian Kelly.
Cece, just stop. It's me.
Yeah!
Please, baby, don't kill yourself.
You will never protect me.
It was very toxic.
Don't touch me!
And I knew from the beginning that he was not treating her correctly.
Shut up and let me slide, you dumbass!
There are many things that father who loves his daughter very deeply should never have to put up with.
The February 21st incident in the elevator?
Well, it's obvious that she's under duress, and we don't know what happened before or after.
And then obviously the incident that took place, the date of the incident, when the defendant killed the victim. You heard about that 2 days ago.
Well, when the defendant acted in self-defense, I heard about that, yes.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, remember them and how toxic that relationship was? Well, that was nothing compared to this relationship of Courtney Clenny and Christian Obumseli. Courtney Clenny made millions on OnlyFans, and she had a page on OnlyFans. You pay a subscription. Apparently, a lot of people paid a lot of money, and she would, you know, put up photos and make very explicit videos, sometimes by herself and sometimes with Christian. But now she's accused of murdering him. And as you saw in those clips, toxic relationship, and she, the day before, is asking for a restraining order against him. They're living in this $12,000 a month apartment down in Miami. And there's other recordings, though. And there's the elevator video. Everything else we've seen and heard, including other stabbings, he's always the one getting hit with a bottle, getting stabbed with a knife, and he was the one that ends up getting killed, but she's claiming self-defense. Now, you saw at her preliminary hearing, her father was testifying. Well, now, her father is even more involved in the case, as is her mother. They've all been charged. Additional charges of trying to break into Christian's computer after she was arrested, and they're figuring out the password, trying to get in. Here is Jude Facciadomo, one of the Clenny defense attorneys, talking about, you know, going after the parents.
There is not a crime here. The Clennys have not committed a crime. The access to the computer was part of defense of Courtney Clenny and was an authorized access, and it does not fall within the parameters of the statute that they charged. Nevertheless, they tried to jam that round peg into a square hole, and more troublingly, through a extreme showing of force, showed up at the Clennys' home and placed them under arrest on an extradition warrant. Wholly unnecessary, wholly inappropriate. I think what you will ultimately see as this case is litigated is that this statute was something they pulled out of thin air and does not apply to the facts of this case.
Okay, pre-trial hearing on Friday. That is tomorrow. Florida versus Courtney, Kim, and Deborah Clenny. This is all about these allegations, these additional allegations. Obviously, the big case is the murder case against Courtney, but now her parents sort of wrapped up in it. Strange development here. Let's bring back in our think tank, Kirk Nerby, Eklund Mercy, and Philip Dubé. Philip, strange development here where the parents are charged, and I'm trying to understand how this works because it seems like they were working in conjunction with Courtney's attorneys trying to get information from what they claim is a shared computer.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. I mean, here they are in defense of their own daughter, trying to do whatever they can within lawful means. If it is a lawfully shared device, it means Courtney had a possessory interest in the computer, in the password, in the contents, and she can give her interest in that computer to her parents. In other words, consent, authorization to go in there and try to find whatever they need to defend her. There is no allegation, for example, that there was corruption of files or spoliation of evidence, or destruction of files or deletion of data. There's nothing like that at all. So I think the burden is going to be on mom and dad to show that Courtney was not so much part legal owner, but that she was a lawful possessor of it and that it was a shared laptop between her and Christian. And if that's the case, she was authorized to give permission to her parents. And we'll see what happens.
Kirk, they were trying to figure out a password, and they were, throwing some guesses out there, and they were able to get in. But again, it seemed that Courtney's attorneys were in the mix in all of this. So why did the parents get charged, and the lawyers, and Courtney gets charged, but the lawyers are kind of like okay in all this?
Well, it's interesting, because they are obviously seeing whether the computer was a shared possession or not. They were looking to gain access to his specific account, something that Courtney did not know the password to. We get into some technicalities here with the law. I know in Arizona we have Victims' Bill of Rights. The defense attorney wouldn't be able to go after that sort of information. My question would be, if the attorneys really wanted it themselves, why would they involve Courtney's parents? Why wouldn't they just keep it within the client and go after that information themselves? It seems suspicious to me anyway at this point why they would, in essence, farm that out. So I think really what's going to happen here at this hearing is going to be very technical in terms of what they did, what they tried to access, and whose account was which. And were they really acting at the direction of the attorneys who could become witnesses themselves and thus further delay the murder trial as well?
So, Eklund, when you're investigating a case, do you get the whole family involved?
Absolutely not, because privilege, and I think that they waive privilege now. And I think that the extent that they are going to use the extent that her attorneys are going to help the parents may affect privilege. And now the prosecution has an open, a carte blanche, as you say, with regards to the defense. But I want to also say that jail phone calls are being recorded. They've always been recorded. They tell you that beforehand. I think that the prosecution has probable cause to arrest the parents because of the jail phone calls. And there's never been especially with a high-profile case like this. If I'm an attorney for the big bucks, I'm not using parents. I'm using an investigator. They could have made an in-camera motion for that laptop if they felt that information was necessary, and they did not do that. I think they should watch out, because the more that they're helping the parents, the more you kind of obliterate privilege.
Yeah, it's a strange development in all of this. And one thing I know about Courtney Clenny's attorneys is that they are thorough, they are aggressive, and they have claimed her innocence from the beginning, and have painted her and said that she's the victim not only of violence, but of being trafficked by Christian Obumseli. So I don't know if that's the information that may have been in that computer. I'm not sure. But we shall see, and we'll see what happens with this case, because again, they're claiming what they're doing, what they did was not wrong. So we shall see. Kirk Nurmi, Eklund Mercy, Philip Dubé, stay with us. Fasten those seatbelts. Up next. In tonight's Tank Takes, a pair of convenience store workers stage a fake robbery trying to steal $5 grand from the store. They get caught. And tonight we're wondering, was it a bad plan or just bad acting?
An innocent child and an unthinkable tragedy.
5-year-old Harmony Montgomery disappeared in 2019.
So we just need to find out where she is. I have nothing to say.
Now her own father stands trial for her brutal murder.
I did not kill my daughter Harmony, and I look forward to my upcoming trial.
So many questions that come back to the same question. How could this happen?
The murder of Harmony Montgomery trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time for tonight's Tank Takes, where we take a look at the world of crime and justice and some stories that don't fit in the rest of the show, but they do fit here at the end of the program. Still with us, our think tank, Kirk Nurmi, Eklund Mercy, and Philip Dubé. Are you ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Let's get to our first one. I'm calling this one Acorn Assault. And first of all, let me just tell you, you're going to see a video. No one is harmed in this video. No one. So apparently, a sheriff's deputy makes an arrest. The suspect is cuffed, put into the car. The deputy is outside the car. And as he's walking outside the car, I believe an acorn may fall and hit the roof of the car. And apparently the deputy believes that he has been shot by the suspect who is in the car. Let's watch.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! You know. I'm hit! What? Everywhere! In the car! I ain't shot through the car! Oh! I'm good. I feel weird, but I'm good. I'm good. Did you see anything on my vest? What are you feeling? Did you feel anything? My legs went numb when it hit me. All right. I don't know. My legs went numb for a second. I heard a pop come from.
Well, he did resign after all that. He didn't get shot. It was the sound of the acorn. It was an acorn apparently that hit the car, and he thought it was a shot, and he thought he had been shot. Is he a bad cop or a bad shot? I mean, he's firing at the vehicle, and everyone's okay, despite the fact that there was a suspect handcuffed in the back seat there. Kirk?
Well, I think he's a bad cop and a bad shot. I mean, how could somebody mistake an acorn hitting the car to being shot? I don't know if that's a truthful statement or not, but pepper and bullets all over the cross there because an acorn hit a car. He's rightfully off the force, and hopefully his concealed carry permit will go with it.
Eklund Mercy, do you have anything to say on this one?
He wouldn't pass basic training. The fact that, like, what is the criteria? I think that there should be a really look into criteria, because if your anxiety can't get you past an acorn, how can we have you serve and protect? I think that we have bigger problems than his acorn.
And the bottom line, again, no one was harmed in all that. Thank goodness. Okay, let's get to our next story. I'm calling this one Inconvenience Truth. And what happened was 2 employees at a convenience store at a gas station decide that they're going to pretend that there's a robbery taking place. And you know, there's surveillance cameras in there. So let's take a look at what happens here. Here comes the robber. And there's the victim. He looks very scared. And apparently they're going to make off with, try to get $5,000 out of this. This is happening not in Florida, believe it or not. Look at him. He pistol whips him a little bit. Oh, yeah, go down. Yes. Whoa. How about that? Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Philip Dubé. Was this a bad plan or just some bad acting?
Oh, that is royal ham acting. And I got to tell you, Vinny, these inside jobs are very common in the public defender world. We see it all the time. Friends work out a deal where, hey, you know, I'll let you in. I'll leave the key here. You go in there and we'll share the loot. But now you know why our Diet Fresca, our beef jerky, and our Slim Jims are through the roof price-wise. Everything's a fortune because of retail theft.
This was the most violent attack since Jussie Smollett was attacked at that subway in Chicago. Yeah. Eklund?
Oh, exactly. We see this all the time. You'd be surprised how many people think that they were the first person to come up with the plan to fake a robbery. And it's, the acting, the amount of footage we've seen, it's insane.
Let's do this. Let's get to the last one. I'm calling this one Gum 2K. Apparently this woman is a serial gum thief and stole like $2,000 worth of gum, believe it or not. We have some security of the suspect. There she is, off with the gum. So my question tonight, Kirk Nermi, what's the street value, though, of that gum? What's the street value of that gum?
I don't know what's Bazooka Joe going for, Vinny. Is it still a nickel? Hey, look. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Oh, I wish I could blow a bubble like that, Vinny. I don't know, man. Yeah. But it's baseball season, spring training's coming. I'm working on my gum there, buddy.
Kirk Nermi, Eklund Mercy, Philip Dubé. Thank you all so much. Have a great night. Appreciate your time and your insight. All right, before we go tonight, folks, please take a look at your television screen. Kiara Laster is her name. Kiara is missing from West Palm Beach, Florida since February 8th. She's only 15 years old. If you see Kiara, please pick up the phone, make the call, 1-800-THE-LOST, 911, or you can call the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office down in Florida. That number is on your screen. Let's see if we can get Kiara to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.